Hey, how's it going? I was asked a question in a forum about emergence, and I thought I would make a video because it's much easier to explain it. So, thank you to Kirsten for the question. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, which is everyone except Kirsten, this is based on a Notion system that I use that was created by August Bradley, which he calls Pillars, Pipelines, and Vaults. And it's a system that I've been using for 5 years now. Long time. And I've just re signed up to his community. And it's got me thinking about the things that he taught me, one of which is emergence, which is a concept that comes from systems thinking. And the idea is that systems, which are all around us, when you put systems together, or you take one system and put the component parts of the system together, it can create something bigger than the sum of its parts. An example would be the human body, which is made up of all kinds of biological, neurological, other kinds of ogical components. And you put them together and you get life. Life consciousness, which arises from this system but isn't in itself part of the system. Does that make sense? So I've been thinking a lot about that, and what had happened yesterday was that in reviewing my past journal entry pages over the last 5 years, because this is the time of year when August Bradley typically launches or revises his course, I've got entries coming up on this day in history over these 5 years, which look at the iterations of the system and how I'm using it and all of that stuff. So emergence is something I've mentioned before in my journal pages. And what I do is I add handwritten journal pages, which I scan. I then add them into my Notion database. And then one of the things I do as part of my morning ritual is to look through all of the entries from on this day. And now that I've got 5 years worth of data in there, sometimes I'll have 4 or even 5 entries. Sometimes there's only one. So it depends on whether I've added stuff on this day through the years. But it's allowing me to see my own progress. It's allowing me to see some of the failures as well, which can be quite frustrating when I find myself repeating the same thing over and over. Like I would like to, for example, when I was doing my marketing channel, I really must get a marketing video out today, and I'm not achieving that. What's going on? And then the following year, I'm saying the same thing, and the following year, same thing, and it shows me where I'm failing, and that makes me think about why I might be failing. And I know with the marketing channel it was because it wasn't aligned to who I want to be, and I've since let it go, which is a good feeling. But that, I think, is an example of emergence where I'm learning something through my system of reviewing my own journal entries across the years, and of course taking notes in my journal. That's a system or ritual or habit. They're all kind of intertwined, these concepts. Anyway, that's a kind of long and rambly way of explaining what or how I think about emergence and how it came up yesterday. Yesterday's pages particularly were about reintegrating with August Bradley's community and how it inspired me to start writing about emergence in my pages, which is a way of learning what you think and how your thoughts might have changed over time and in a creative way. So I was producing something that didn't exist before, and then I got asked a question about it because I posted a link in the forum in the community, and Kirsten asked, what do you mean, how do you get your pages into Notion, and how does that lead to emergence? So I'm going to screen share with you and show you the process for that, what it looks like, and hopefully it will become clear and maybe you'll understand it. I don't know. So here we go. Let's do some screen sharing. Right, this is my Notion command center, and we're basing it in the daily tracking page, which looks like this. So every day I add a new page. I've already done today's, but I'll do a new one just so you can see the process. So create a new page from the template. For some reason it's got the date wrong, so let's fix that. And then for the name of it, I use the @ symbol and give it today, which then sticks with it. So you can see over here I've got yesterday, last Sunday, last Saturday, etc. The week number goes in automatically as a formula, so that I then know which week number to add here. So every week is a page, as is every month actually. So that's for my weekly and monthly reviews. We can ignore the rest for the moment because it's not relevant to what we're discussing. So we get down to the quick journal and on this day. Twirl that open. And you can see now that using a formula, it's automatically showing me the entries that I have for October the 28th across the years. So it just so happens that there are 3. And of course I'll be adding today's as well, which I'll show you. So I can click these open and read about what was on my mind on those days, which is part of my morning ritual. So I can open this one up and let you see it because this one I've published. So this is what it looks like. This is my entry from last year. And I put these out on my Substack and on my own URL, so that's duplicated on the internet at camscampbell.com. And you'll see here I've got a Knowledge Vault link. So this is another database which I believe is now called the Master Tag Database in the new iteration of the system. This is like maybe the second iteration of Pillars, Pipelines and Vaults, so it's an old version, but you know, works fine for me. URL, so that's a link that takes you to the web page where I've published it on my own website. And then Readwise Library, this is my book database. So if I mention a book in my pages, then I will link it here so that I can see it from the other side. For example, let's say Thinking in Systems, because that's what was on my mind. That's one of the 2 books I mentioned. The other was Mindset. So now I can click on that and I can see all of my entries for Thinking in Systems. And somewhere down here, there's a quick journal link back to that journal entry. So I can see that any entries where I've spoken about this book will be highlighted here. So it allows me to go both ways, which is quite neat. So how do you go back when you've maximised your window? You can't. I need to do it that way. Right, so that's the entry for last year with 2 useful links, Master Tag Database or Knowledge Vault and my Readwise library. So how do we add the entries? Right, so I've scanned the entry on my computer. It's quite simple. Go in here, add a quick journal, do the same thing for the title, give it today's date. There. It's already added the template, so I'd put in the date. If I'm going to publish it, which for today I am, I'd put in the URL, so I've got a text expander snippet for that, MMP, and that adds the link with today's date. The URLs are always today's date. Then add the image from my desktop. And there it is, that's today's entry. Now I can't go back because I've got my window maximised, so we open up today's date, we can now see that today's has now been added to on this day as well, and we now have 4 entries. come down a wee bit. Let's make this bigger. I've done the same thing for the content that I've published on this day across the years. That's something I just added, and I think it's going to be useful because it shows me what things I've made on this day, and I can review that as well, which is something I find interesting to do. And I've done the same thing with books finished on this day. So these will be ones that I've finished again on this day across the years. And this is all now incorporated into my daily tracking template, and it allows me to look back and see how productive I've been. So it's kind of like an accomplishments view in a sense, where I get to see what I've published, what I've read over the last 5 years, which I find quite interesting. And the emergence, as I've said, it comes about as I read through the entries from previous years and see what books I was talking about, what ideas I was thinking about, and what they meant to me, and then that can lead to writing about them again and learning what I think about them now and how those thoughts and ideas have progressed, or, for example, the marketing video stuff, how I've let it go because I've seen through my multiple year entries that it wasn't working for me. And even though it was kind of successful in a business sense, it wasn't aligned. So I had to let it go. So I hope that's been useful. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're wondering what the hell this is all about, look up August Bradley's Notion Life Design course. I'll put a link in the description to this so you can go and check it out. It's relaunching now. It's actually just relaunched last week. It's a good time to get into it if you've never seen it before, or to get back into it if you have but have let it go, which is the position I was in. I'm very excited to reintegrate with the community and progress my life in a positive way. That's what it's all about. So thanks again, Kirsten, for the question, and thanks all for watching. See you again. Bye for now. It's just dawned on me that I didn't show you the formula for how I get the entries to appear in the on this day section. So I'll show you that here. Right, if we come down to a journal entry, open it up, I've got an entry here called On This Day, which is a formula. You'll see there's a Y because it's today, the 28th of October. So if I edit property, edit formula, this is the formula that allows that to happen. It's looking at the date field on the page, and then it's given me all the rest of the stuff, which means if it's on this day, you get a Y. If it's not on this day, it's blank. So then all I need to do is filter for on this day contains Y, which I'll show you as well, just for completeness. Over here, filter, one rule, on this day is Y. So that's how I've done it with Content Pipeline. That's how I've done it with books that I've finished. That's how I get them to appear on this daily tracking template. Alright, hope that was useful. See you later.